Hi, welcome to Rock Talk, our weekly parent show where we talk about different topics to affect the Round Rock ISD community. I'm Corey Ryan, Executive Director for Communications and Community Relations, and joining me here today on this Rock Talk, where we're going to talk about managing student allergies while at school, is our Food Production Manager and Meal Planner, Andrea Kilper.
Hello.
Our Director of Health Services, Sandy Headley, and a parent of a middle school student who has some food allergies as well as asthma, Alicia Almond. Thanks for joining us here on Rock Talk.
Yeah, welcome.
So we're going to get started in talking about and giving parents advice on how to work with our schools in partnership and to make sure that they get the best service for their students. And I'm going to start with you, Sandy,
Okay.
in directing the nurses at all of our schools. On any given day, how does allergy management impact our students and then our campus staff and nurses? What is the impact in terms of our school district?
Well, we now have a complete heightened awareness with students with allergies. We focus on prevention. At the start of the school year, I did have an expert in allergy and asthma, Dr. Lieberman, come in and talk to all my nurses. I work with a physician that helps us to set protocol to make sure that we don't miss anything. For the last 2 years, we have stock EpiPens in our schools, which is really exciting because we were one of the first school districts to do that here. And that is for the students who we aren't identified as having allergies, but they come in and they're not able to breathe, and we can help them out by giving them an EpiPen. But we train all our staff, and we are really ahead of the game. Dr. Lieberman was really excited with all we're doing here in Round Rock.
So our process is not only to partner with parents in setting up an individualized, personalized plan for the students who have these and they come, but also to be ready for any of the emergency situations that could be thrown.
Absolutely. And each year, every Round Rock ISD staff member goes through a compliance training, and part of that includes the EpiPens, allergies, asthma. And then we take it a step further and we do additional training with all of our bus drivers. And then we take it even a step further, and those students who are identified, we actually go in and train their teachers and anyone who might be on a field trip with them. And so we really make sure that everybody understands and knows the signs and symptoms and how to treat and what to do and how to call the nurse.
Can you give us more details about the kind of allergies that our nurses are dealing with on a daily basis?
Yes, we have quite a few students who have nut allergies, tree nut allergies, peanut allergies, milk allergies, latex allergies, fruit allergies, egg allergies, so all kinds, and we take each one of them very seriously. If a parent puts on the pink card that their student has an allergy, my nurse will pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, do they need an EpiPen here? How serious is the allergy? And we make sure that we get a plan in place just as soon as possible.
And Andrea, your role is working with the nurses and parents to find those special options for students who need special diet and special meals. Can you talk about some of the steps that we can take as a district from a food services standpoint to meet the needs of our students with allergies?
Yes, we have a food allergy form posted on our webpage, the food service department webpage, and any students that are brought to our attention that need a modified diet or that have allergies, we direct the parents to fill that form out, and there is a section for their physician to fill it out, and then submit it to me, and I work with the parents to accommodate the diet order. A lot of the orders or allergies can be accommodated through our regular menu, the variety in our menu, but there are some that are more severe that may require modifications to the menu.
So, and Alicia, as a parent of a student with some severe allergies, what was kind of your first step from a parent angle in getting the support that your child needed?
Well, before he started kindergarten, I reached out to the school and talked to the principal and set up a meeting with the nurse. And we just kind of went over what his allergies were. At that point, I mean, he's in 7th grade now. At that point, they hadn't seen as many kids with food allergies. He's kind of right on the cusp of this big bloom in the number of cases. So we sat down and we talked about how we were going to keep him safe at school. Snacks in the classroom, that kind of thing. We opted not to do cafeteria food, because I was able to send him food from home. So we just kind of got everything lined up, let them know he was coming, had an emergency action plan in place, let the teachers know, and made sure there were EpiPens there for him if he needed them.
From a parent perspective, what kind of prep or teaching do you have to provide your child? What kind of steps did you take to make sure? Because obviously we want to have a partnership at our school level, but I imagine that there was some teaching on your part with your child.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've taught him from the beginning that there are certain foods that could make him very sick, and we just always taught him you don't eat anything unless we give it to you, your dad or I give it to you. And then as he's gotten older, we've taught him how to read labels, how to make sure that, foods are safe for him. And then just day-to-day things, just letting him know that he lives in a world with his allergies, and when it comes down to it, it's his responsibility to keep himself safe. So doing things like washing his hands before he eats, not touching his mouth or his eyes, because if he's picked up something on his hands, that theoretically could cause a reaction if he then puts his hands in his mouth. So just kind of teaching him how to deal with that and how to exist in a world where there are eggs and nuts. So he's doing a great job of it.
Is there any advice that you'd give to a parent who maybe just found out, something you learned along the way that you maybe wish you would have known at that time when you found out about some severe allergies?
I think initially it's really scary. You find out your child has this allergy, and I mean, they could stop breathing if they eat this food they're allergic to. But just to take a deep breath and realize that everybody at the school cares about your child and they want to keep them safe. And that if you have an open dialogue and you work with them, it's a partnership that you can go to school safely.
Sandy, what's the process from the school's end when a parent comes and says, my child has a food allergy? Is there paperwork? Is there a process in place? What does it look like?
There is. What we ask the parents to do is get us an allergy action plan together with signed orders from the physician, bring in the medications as soon as they can, ideally prior to school starting, so we have everything in place so that we can keep the student healthy and in the classroom. Then once that is done, we sit down and make out an individualized health plan for the student, and we make sure that all staff members that need to know where those students are. We talk to teachers if we have children in their classroom that's seriously allergic to something. We talk to them about be cognizant of what you're using in your science projects, or what pet food you're giving the hamster that might be in your classroom, just to be really aware of the ingredients in there. We will also, if the parent allows us to, put on the classroom door that we have a nut allergy in this classroom, and we ask parents to be cognizant of what they send in for lunches for their kids. Obviously, we can't tell them they can't bring in nuts, so we don't have a nut-free school, but we do have nut-free zones as best as we can.
And so, in elementary school, there's a lot of pressure on the nurse. In particular, we have amazing nurses across our district, but particularly in the elementary school, it's on the nurse, and then it kind of expands when they get into secondary school in terms of responsibility. It kind of comes more on, because I wouldn't think that a nurse is going to be able to go and find every high school student's teachers and making sure they're aware, especially with the science experience and things like
But
that.
they do a very good job of it, because my nurses do know which students have the nut allergies, because the parents always identify it. We also, as a child matriculates from elementary school to the middle to the high school, our nurses do a report, very much like they do in the hospital, and say, here are the students that are coming to you, here are the allergies they have, or whatever medical alert it happens to be. Then they will do follow-up with the parent. And sometimes the parents say, the students are managing it fine on their own, but it's still important that the nurse is aware that they have this particular allergy.
Andrea, can you provide us some of the specific things from a food services standpoint that you guys have done in preparing meals that meet the needs of kids?
Yes. We generally, I reach out to the parents as a first step, and when I receive these forms back, get some more information and details on what the diet actually is and needs to be. And if it's something that we can work around with our current, what we regularly offer, then I just kind of go through the menu with the parent. I ask them to select items that their child might be interested in eating, and I send them all of the recipes and labels, ingredient labels, so they can, they're the best judge of what their children can eat based on the ingredient labels. So I let them review that information. And if it's something that does require a modified diet or a completely different diet, then I figure out what that might be based on what their needs are, and I share that with everybody on the campus that is involved in it, the school nurse, the cafeteria manager, the supervisor over the cafeteria manager in our department, and just make sure that the food, if it's something that we need to order that's not something we currently stock, I make sure that we get that ordered, stocked, distributed to the campus. And we operate off of a 5-week cycle menu. So I just kind of set up a 5-week cycle menu for the allergy menu. And
It's still a diverse kind of menu. It's not like they're
Yeah.
getting the same thing, and it's still the fresh foods that all the other students are getting. It's just personalized to meet their needs.
exactly, yeah.
Awesome. Approximately 9.2 million children younger than 18 have been diagnosed with asthma in their lifetime. Nearly 6 million children in the U.S., which equates to 1 in 13, or roughly 2 in every classroom, have a food allergy. From a nurse standpoint, what are the strategies when there is a severe allergic reaction, Sandy?
If, all the teachers have been trained, so if for some reason it happens in the classroom, they immediately call the school nurse. The school nurse will come with an EpiPen. They'll say, hey, it appears they're having an allergic reaction. If it's a student that is known to have an allergy, we'll grab their EpiPen. If they self-carry, the teachers are also taught to be able to give it. The student can give it to themselves. There's protocol that we have. Some, if they're not having too much difficulty breathing, they're just starting with the swollen lips and maybe a little scratchy throat. Maybe it'll be a little bit of Benadryl first, and then if that doesn't work, the EpiPen. But they're all taught, when in doubt, go ahead and give the EpiPen, because you can't go wrong giving the EpiPen. Our protocol is every time we give an EpiPen, we are going to call 911, because the epinephrine just allows about 15 minutes, and they very well could have another reaction. So we want to get 911 involved at that point.
What does the district training for allergy management look like when we train from nurses, teachers, substitute teachers, food handlers, bus drivers?
Well, as I mentioned before, we take it to different levels. Everybody gets the very general training in our compliance training. Every Round Rock ISD employee does have knowledge on EpiPen and inhalers. Then we take it a step further. We do a little bit more in-depth training with the bus drivers, because we seem to have some incidences on the bus with that occasionally. And then we take it even further and go with the teachers and anyone who has contact with the student that can help that student out.
You mentioned earlier the allergy action plan. What elements does that include? You mentioned the doctors.
The doctor's orders, when to give the EpiPen, should Benadryl be administered first, what the allergy is, because we also have insect allergies that are very severe. So it's individualized for each student.
When it comes to allergies, asthma specifically, what are this? Is it a similar kind of strategy? Is there a backup inhaler kept with the nurse?
If the student is allowed to self-carry, we have self-carry. Any student can self-carry. They do have to have the proper forms filled out, and if the doctor has checked the little box that says that they understand how to use the inhaler, they can't share it with others, then we do recommend to the parents to keep a backup inhaler in the nurse's office, just in case the student loses their inhaler. We want to be ready and have something available for them.
Alicia, are there any different strategies in working with your son in managing his inhaler versus some of his allergy medication? Or
No,
is it kind of...
it all goes together. He has a little red zipper pouch he keeps in his backpack, and in it, he's got his EpiPens and his inhaler. Everything he needs is right there in his little medicine bag. So, all the paperwork, everything's just right there together, and he just keeps it with him all the time.
Not to make light of how tough it must be, but I imagine he's a pretty responsible kid at a very young age, because he had to be.
Yeah, we were lucky because he's always been mature and responsible. And I think having something like this kind of forces you maybe to step up your responsibility a little bit, and he just kind of stepped right into that. But yeah, he does. He takes really good care of himself. And I mean, the fact is, the last thing he wants is to have to inject himself with an EpiPen at school. I mean, like, he'd be mortified. In addition to the fact that, he'd be sick. But he knows. He doesn't want anything to happen. He reads the labels. He doesn't take chances. If they hand something out in class, he says, sorry, I can't eat that, but thank you. He knows how to keep himself safe, and he does it. So.
I just think about my own habits and growing up, and I wish I was thinking about the things I was eating as a kid.
Well, and it's interesting, though, because they say as kids get older, actually the highest risk time for them to have severe food allergy reactions is when they're teenagers, because they take more chances.
Right.
As they get older, they don't want to tell their friends, oh, yeah, sorry, I can't eat that. So they think, well, maybe I'll just try it and see what happens.
That's right.
So we haven't had any problems with that yet, and I just hope he keeps his head on straight.
No, I completely understand. It makes a lot of sense. With the asthma, seasonal allergies are believed to affect as many as 40% of U.S. children, and asthma is one of the leading causes of school absence due to illness. We mentioned that an asthma inhaler can be managed. Is there any other techniques that your son has to work other than the inhaler? Are there any kind of cardiovascular exercises or things like that?
No, I mean,
or is
he's
it-
a pretty fit, healthy kid in general, so, in the cold weather, that can aggravate the asthma a little bit. So, like the weather's been a little cool, just encouraging him to keep an eye on how he's feeling. If he needs to take a break and get in his inhaler, do it. When it's really cold, he'll wear like a scarf over his mouth so that it kind of moderates that cold air going in. But other than that, not really.
So I just want to thank you all for coming and talking. I think this has been an outstanding episode. It definitely is a topic that means a lot, especially to the parents who have students in our schools with this. I want to thank our viewers for tuning in to this episode of Rock Talk. Visit roundrockisd.org/Rock Talk for all of our episodes. We do these weekly with different topics geared directly towards parents. I'm going to close up with asking everybody just one last kind of takeaway, keeping in mind our audience are parents for just things that we haven't talked about that you wish parents would know or would also like to pass along. Andrea, what can you tell us from food services maybe we haven't been able to get to so far?
Sure. I just wanted to make the point that we don't serve any nuts, peanuts or tree nuts in our the food that we serve on the in our menu, or any of the snacks that we sell a la carte either. And I also wanted to just say that if you do have a child with an allergy or any other need for dietary modification, please submit the form that's posted on our website. So we do have record of all those students with needs.
And Sandy, we have so many caring nurses across our school district, so I just want to thank you and your team for everything they do. I know they're definitely the safety net for a lot of our parents, and I think nurses are an amazing part of our school district. Any takeaways or anything else you'd like to pass on to parents?
Just pretty much what Andrea said. As soon as the parent knows the child has an allergy, build that relationship with your school nurse. She's going to be a great advocate for your child. She's going to do everything she can to keep the child safe and in the classroom and healthy and being a lifelong learner.
Any other takeaways for parents, tips you can provide?
No, I would just say that we've had a really good experience with Round Rock ISD throughout the process, helping to keep my son safe. Like I think I said earlier, it's a partnership, it's a dialogue, and just don't be afraid to ask questions. And everybody wants to help keep your child safe just as badly as you do. So, when in doubt, ask. Everybody wants to help.
Awesome. Again, thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.